This channel was built primarily on interviews with LitRPG authors and narrators and everybody in between. But then I stopped listening or reading as much LitRPG content. I was feeling a little burnt out. So aside from a couple random books, I haven't read that much. And it's kind of a shame because I really loved LitRPG. My name is Dakota, and this is UpperPen, and I am talking with Rachel, Aaron, and Travis Bach about Death Has Joined the Party, Book One of the Mana Runners. And this book reminds me of why I enjoyed LitRPG to begin with. And if you're listening to this interview and you enjoy it, please consider leaving me a comment, letting me know about your favorite new LitRPG books that I haven't heard of, because I'm sure there's so many. And consider following the podcast. But let's get on to the interview. Thank you both for joining me today.
Oh, it's
Thank
our
you for
pleasure.
having us.
One of you describe what is mana or what is Death Has Joined the Party.
I'll do it. So, Death Has Joined the Party is a lit RPG that is based on the 5e SRD, and those are the free rules that Wizards of the Coast put out so that everyone could play a basic rule set of Dungeons and Dragons. It's not a Wizards of the Coast property, but we're playing with their toys. This is the same legal umbrella that allows people to publish D&D content, like source books, new monstrous manuals, new adventure modules. And my husband and I are both big gamers, have been for a long time. I actually got my crush on him because he was GMing a game that I was not in. And I was very jealous and I wanted to be in that game. And I thought he was very cute. And that was like how I noticed him. And he's been my GM now for 24 years. So this was a natural next step for us. And we have written another lit RPG together, which is Forever Fantasy Online, and that one's based on Warcraft. So pretty much the story goes, Travis and I play a game, Travis and I love game, Travis and I make book. That's how it works. And so for this particular property, I've been a writer for a very long time now. I have over 30 books, fantasy, sci-fi, urban fantasy. So what we did with this project, and the reason both of our names are on it, is I did the writing and the characters, and Travis did the game design. Because this is our first time working with a magical system that's not our own, that we didn't create, because we're literally using D&D. Like, there's the spells from the spell book are in our book, which was one of the really fun things to do about it, because the limitations make it more fun. Like, you have to really work around, and I have a lot of fun playing with the D&D humor. But again, because I'm not using my own magical system, I'm an author. I'm used to just changing the rules to be whatever I want them to be. And I can't do that here. So I had to really heavily rely on Travis, even more than I usually do, because we always write together. Like, we always brainstorm and do every plot and everything. All of that's both of us. And but I had to rely on Travis a lot because, I'm like, can I legally do this? Like, does this make sense? Is this how this spell works, or is this how the grapple rules work or something? And so, since he is a GM, these are the questions I ask him as a player. So it was honestly like the same dynamic, but for writing.
So, Travis, did you find yourself struggling to figure out what spells she'd need, what conditions she'd need for these?
There are definitely some challenges because normally in running 5e, for example, I'm merely designing challenges to humans, right? But with a book, we have to design challenges that are narratively interesting for a reader. So I had to approach encounter design from a theatrical standpoint more so than usual. um, but to be fair, a lot of the same elements are there for both tabletop and for the novel. Good encounter design should always rely on multiple layers of tension and spinning plates and things like that. So there's a lot of overlap, but yeah, it was a new dimension. It was fun, actually. I really liked having to turn the die and approach it from a different direction.
So, Mana Runners is set in a fantasy world itself. So it's not, one of these lit RPGs that is on Earth that's been taken over or something. But it does have a fun framing device, which is the TV show, right?
Yeah, and I did that specifically because I have always loved a play within a play. I've always loved the show must go on stories. And
same here. I'm a sucker for
yeah,
that.
like we're giant suckers for that. So I really loved having to make it both an adventure and a performance because it puts an extra layer of tension on the plot in that you can't just do what is the smart, best, most optimal move every time because there's a camera. You have to, or in this case, a scrying device. Because again, the other kind of core concept of this novel was, what if we took a D&D adventuring world and just let it age 1,000 years as it would with technological progression? What would a modern fantasy world look like? That was kind of the other fun thing we were playing with. And so all of the technology in the books is based on D&D spells. Like the internet is the Cindernet because it's all based on the sending spell and how that would have been modified, stuff like that. This was mostly us having a lot of fun with D&D. And as D&D nerds are wont to do. So having the play within a play allows us to do a lot of things and put the characters in a lot of different situations that both make it funnier and make it more intense. Because this book is primarily a comedy. Like there's a lot of action, there's a lot of combat, there's big dramatic moments. But this was mostly me having a lot of fun. The series I finished right before this one, called Tear Down Heaven, it's about a war in heaven. It's a very serious urban fantasy turned epic fantasy. But I mean, it was intense. It was a primal scream of rage at points. And I'm like, man, I just want to write something fun. I just want to have some fun again. The world is dark. We need humor. So I was like, let's do some funny stuff. Let's have mimics and all kinds of fun things. And yeah, so what you're seeing is just really two D&D nerds having a really good time. And then since I am a professional fantasy author, I then arrange all of that into dramatic order. And so to make it really entertaining to read. My goal was to make it like you're watching the funniest people play D&D, but in a perfectly executed dramatic order,
I really think that the framing device of the TV show or the reality show works to kind of bring in what would be a DM having these arbitrary rules that you're like, why can't I do this?
Exactly. And one of the big themes of Mana Runners is good DMing versus bad DMing. There are good encounters and there are very unfair encounters that the characters complain about because they're on rails. It's unfair. There's no loot. What are we doing this for? And I have a lot of fun. It's very meta at points. I have a lot of fun with chapter titles. The whole thing is the tongue is firmly in the cheek. But again, I wanted it to be an exciting, dramatic story with characters who you want to root for. So that was also there. So it's not a purely absurdist comedy. It's very Pratchett.
It is very Pratchett. Maybe that's why I really enjoy it because it's very fun, but there are some stakes,
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're going to copy someone, copy Terry Pratchett. Never go
wrong. For Travis, you were the one making was it like the dungeon levels that you were creating and the monsters they'd encounter?
That was primarily where a lot of the DMing work went. Rachel would be like, Travis, I need a floor. What's the next floor challenge going to look like? And then I went downstairs, grabbed a giant pile of books, covered the kitchen table in them, and started leafing through because I'm very excited. I love shopping for toys in the books. And Well, of course, I was limited to what the SRD has. Plenty of inspirations leaped out at me, and I started pitching floors to Rachel. I'm like, well, what if we did a frozen floor? What if we did a temple level? How do you feel about a maze? Um, and then she would come back with, oh, I think that she's like, I like the frozen castle idea. Like, let's use that. That'll want to work for what I have in mind. I'm like, okay, well, I'll build out that. So how are we going to make this a multi-layered adventure? How do you make an interesting dungeon, right? The classic question. And I'm like, well, let's go with environmental troubles. Let's have enemies that don't care about them. So, zombies in the snow, right? They don't care that it's cold.
Yeah.
um, and let's have also, we need a really terrifying enemies, right? We want to always, whenever the protagonist has a lot of power above, say, the standard curve, right, of difficulty, you have to challenge them in interesting ways. And so that's why we did some of the encounters in the book that way as well. I tend to choose very carefully chosen, very dangerous, very almost unbeatable foes to really bring out the ingenuity of the character and give them something to sink all that power into. So
Yeah, because Tavin is a classic LitRPG overpowered hero. So he needed that challenge, but we also had the additional layer of we had to get him enough XP because again, we're within the 5e system. So there's XP. Like the XP levels are written down. So we have to make sure he gets enough XP to level at a rate that's fun for the books. Which was a unique challenge I have never dealt with as a writer. And so
yeah,
Travis and I had to work together really closely to make sure that we're putting in not just the monsters that are most dramatically interesting, but the monsters that are going to give him enough XP to actually get to level 3 or level 2 or whatever level he's trying to get to.
Although I love the way that formula shook out because obviously if you ask me like in a lot of my favorite animes, like for example, like One Piece, for example, the unclimbable wall of a villain and the hero overcoming that in ways that you don't see how they're going to overcome it. That's one of my favorite parts of anime. So bringing that into the book is never a bad move, I feel. And it makes you very excited about the whole story when it happens.
How do you
Exactly.
how do you both keep them like not One Punch Man level of like overpowered, right? Like
Oh, well, the
One Punch Man is one of our favorite shows.
yeah, I love One Punch. But I can answer that one because I've been DMing for a very long time, and I'm not afraid of powerful players at all. There's always a weakness. There's always restrictions and limits on their abilities. There's always ways to challenge them. I mean, in my current campaign right now, last Tuesday, we're on session, I think 135. The character's level 18. Their bags of holding are virtually arcane libraries of stuff. I can't even remember everything they have anymore. But I'm sure Rachel will tell you that the last gaming session, despite all of that, was hairy as hell. I had them on the ropes. So experience, I suppose, is the short answer to the question of how do you challenge the overpowered protagonist.
yeah. Rachel, were you saying something?
Oh yeah, well, just he really had us on the ropes. But what he says is with again hitting people where they're weak. This is something I do all the time with my characters in my other books because I write fantasy and fantasy is the fantasy of significant personal action. Mm-hmm. One of the most core elements of any fantasy, urban fantasy, traditional fantasy, epic fantasy, any fantasy, historical fantasy, is that the hero is powerful enough to affect change within the world. And you see this in LitRPG, which is primarily grounded in traditional fantasy. You have these very overpowered heroes. Again, One Punch Man is one of my favorites because even though Saitama is so overpowered, he is so weak in so many areas. And that's the areas the show attacks to make an interesting drama. And that's exactly what we do. That's the same strategy that I've done, for 20 years in my writing. And it's also, I think, one of the areas where LitRPGs fall in holes. I also love LitRPG. I watch a lot of isekai. I read a lot of LitRPG. That's one of the reasons we got into this genre, because we always tend to do what we're interested in at the time. And right now, like when I was writing Heartstrikers, my urban fantasy dragon series about dragons in Detroit, I was really into urban fantasy. I was reading tons of it, and now I'm really into LitRPG. So here's it's a natural progression. And but one of the problems that I see a lot in isekai, in anime, and manga, and written LitRPG is you have these overpowered heroes and they're super fun for like the first 20 chapters. And then you just kind of fall off. And so I knew going into this book that I was going to have to make sure to build in systemic problems
Yeah.
that were going to provide challenge at multiple levels as Tavin like got out of the fun intro zone. That he was going to have to keep climbing that wall, and that wall was never going to get easier because the moment the wall is easy, the book is not fun.
Yeah.
And we're here to watch people overcome challenges. So even if the more powerful the hero, the bigger the wall has to be. And again, One Piece, again, one of our favorite shows, they do that masterfully. Like, even though the Luffy pirate crew is so strong and so overpowered, every arc, they all almost die. Like, they all, like, how in the world are they getting out of it this time? Everyone's going to die. And they always pull it off. And that's why One Piece is like 1,000 episodes, because that cycle works so well.
So going to the actual content of the story, we enter the story when the main character Tavin is incredibly ill. So tell folks what this illness kind of is when we meet him.
Well, Tavin believes that he is allergic to magic,
Mhm.
which is considered ridiculous in his world because it's a magical D&D world. That's like being allergic to air.
Yeah.
How can you be allergic to magic? And this was partially inspired by, I watched a YouTube video about a girl who was literally allergic to air and had to like live in a bubble. And I was like, that sounds horrible. And that kind of, it kind of lives in your head for a bit. And then one day you're thinking of a character like, I'm going to do this. And the reason I did that is because I wanted a character who was at the absolute lowest, someone who was practically buried alive. Because this is really a story about coming back to life and about getting a second chance to go and do all the things you wanted to do but couldn't. That's kind of the core fantasy of the central, like the beginning of the book is my life sucks. I'm locked in my apartment. I can't go outside, or I have horrible pain. I have a horrible medical condition and it's made me unemployable. But to still have a character who doesn't feel sorry for himself, who is making a living despite all of this, but then is given a chance to go out, is given a chance to have that life he's always wanted. And it is so obviously a terrible choice. Like, it is the biggest red flag, but he wants it so bad that he says yes anyway, and thus creates the problem of the book. I mean, he says he lets a lich do surgery on him, which we could all, you don't even have to play D&D to know that is a terrible idea. But it doesn't end the way anyone thought it was going to, and that creates the fun, unique situation. And I really love, again, because we're in isekai, we're not in isekai, we're in LitRPG, and you have that overpowered hero. So in order to start him from the bottom, let's the arc to the top be even higher. And I was like, how low can we get this guy?
So we also have Zavrik. I don't know if I'm saying the name right.
That's how I say it.
Well, he comes in and he is the lich, right? But then
Zavrak the Malevolent.
he becomes our, like, the reader's guide to the world, in effect, if that makes sense.
The darkly cynical, evil guide to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Who came up with Zavrik as like an inner monologue almost?
That was me. I have a dark pet problem. I love evil critters. I love monsters. I love all kinds. I love death. I'm kind of gothy. I always, and I love the idea of, you'll actually, if you read a bunch of my books, you'll notice this is a very common theme of giving the main character a sidekick And this has been an AI, it's been a talking dog, it's been a talking cat multiple times. But to give the hero a sidekick who is there for them to converse and discuss the plot. And this is an author trick so that you can do exposition in the form of a conversation. And Zavrak was like, I'm like, okay, how mean can we make this exposition character? Because Zavrak is awful. Because that was the other really fun thing about writing a D&D novel is everybody has an alignment. And Zavrak is chaotic evil. And so I'm like, how do you have a chaotic evil character who actually is a character, who's not just running around screaming and lighting things on fire? Like, how would that actually play out as a character? And Zavrak was my answer to that question. He's selfish, he's petty, he's hilarious, he's very well educated, but not wise, because he was a wizard. So his wisdom's a dump stat. You don't need that. And so I kind of took his stats because we made his stats first. And I was like, what kind of person would this be? If a person had these stats, who would they be? And the answer was Zavrak. And that was as an author and someone who cares about character, that was the most fun part of this book, was making people's stats and being like, who would the person with these stats be? Like, there's a character who is a mimic, and mimics are not smart. Mimics, if you look at a mimic stat block, they're dumb as furniture. And so I'm like, but I still want her to be a character. So how do you play a dumb character without being condescending, without, just playing her for laughs? How do you make her a real person? Because intelligence is not the only measure of what makes a person worth hanging out with. And I really wanted to do a character like that, and I came up with Mim. And so far, from early reviews, Mim is everyone's favorite character. She is one of the funniest things I have ever written in my entire career. I love her to death. She is my favorite character.
I think that speaks well of everybody that Mim is the most favorite and not Zavrak. Although I just had to chime in on Zavrak. I love how he gives dark advice. That's like one of my favorite parts of him. Like, he's like twisting things that would sound good into evil things.
Well, Tavin knows that he's doing this, so he's like, "Oh, your advice sounds bad."
Yeah. It's a great joke. Like almost like variation on the straight man routine.
Yeah.
Yeah. This whole thing is a straight man routine, but I also love how, like, Zavrak will say something and Tavin will do the opposite, because if Zavrak's telling him to do it, it's bad. So he's like the worst mentor. He's like an anti-mentor. He's a bad example.
So when you were coming up with these alignment characters and these like real people, did you have Travis to kind of like fall back on and be like, would a necromancer or a lich do this, or would they not do this?
So how it went was, I was like, Travis, I want this. Give me this. Like, give me a lich. And we would look at the lich stat block and we would talk about what a lich can and can't do. And there's certain things in the lich stat block that Zavrak can't do. And there is plot reason for that, because we are rules as written here. So anytime things vary, there are rules for why that is. One of our favorite books that's happened to have right here next to my writing area is The Monsters Know What They're Doing, by Keith Ammann. And it's a book about D&D monsters and why they do what they do. Like, why are they made like that? Like, why?
Yeah, it's all of his logic is derived from the stat block of the monster. He'll look at, their perception skill, their intelligence, their wisdom, and he'll say things like, oh, this monster is an ambush predator, or, oh, these monsters use skirmisher tactics, right? He assumes that they have the skills and abilities to thrive in their environment according to their stats.
That's what I want in every D&D manual, by the way. Like, I want the logic behind them.
Exactly. And that's how we approach the writing. Like, when I went to Travis, I was like, Travis, how does this monster know what it's doing?
Mm-hmm. And then we'd have a conversation about it. I'd look at the stat block and we'd figure it out.
And then he'd tell me the tactics the monster would use, and then that's the tactics I would write. That's how we go back and forth.
Okay. Was there anything that you wanted to use that Travis was like, that's not a thing?
Yes.
Yeah, quite a few things, most of which are copyright.
Oh, I see.
Certain highly iconic creatures that wind up on the covers of source books.
Mind flare, things like this, I'm
Mhm.
assuming.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
beholder.
things
We
with
really
mini
wanted the beholder.
eyes. I really wanted one. I was like trying, I was trying so hard. I actually did work a beholder joke into book 2, which will hopefully be coming out later this year. Without having to use it, but they specifically say at the very beginning of the book, actually, I have a
Mhm.
um, tome of greater legal information, and that has all the necessary legal information for using the Creative Commons license that we use to get all the spells for this book. And it specifically says no beholders. It specifically says no mind flares, no tabaxis, no all this stuff. Otherwise, we
Oh,
have
that was a big one actually. The tabaxi. They're
because they're
super
one of the most
popular.
popular classes or
We really
races.
wanted to have a tabaxi character, and we're like, even if we do some backflipping cat person stuff to like rename it, no one's gonna hold, like that's gonna be so thin.
Yeah,
So
this really should have
mm.
called "Death Has Joined the Party: How Not to Get Sued."
That's the
um,
subtitle.
Yeah.
yeah.
So I really, really appreciate though that you two work together to make this so classically D&D though. I feel like a lot of lit RPGs stray away from um what I would think of as like the game, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah, I
Oh
understand.
yeah.
Like, well, I think part of that's because every LitRPG author kind of wants to build their own game,
Yeah.
and so a lot of times they're going to go off in their own direction and enjoy making their own mechanics and stuff. So I think it's natural, honestly.
Yeah, and I actually approached this as a writing challenge because as I've written a lot of books, I've made a lot of my own magic systems, and I really liked having to play by someone else's rules because it forces you to do things you wouldn't normally do because you write enough books, you fall into ruts. And with this book, I was forced to get out of my ruts, and I created a whole bunch of new characters who were outside of the Rachel Aaron repertory theater.
Yeah, like
Um,
Rock.
like Rock, who was a character I never would have written without D&D, and he's the paladin. And it was a very fun way to write, but I totally understand why a lot of lit RPG authors write their own stuff because writing is very fun, writing is very addictive, and the power is amazing. And it's also enough rope to hang yourself because you can make your own magical system and you can forget a critical element right up until you realize you've painted yourself into a corner. So in a lot of ways, using 5e it was both harder and easier. It was harder in that I couldn't just invent solutions to problems. I would have to actually play it. But it's easier because D&D is a polished system with a very steady power curve. I don't have to worry about, him getting too powerful too fast or jankiness. As so long as they've already play tested the magical system, I just have to use it. It's fantastic. Like as someone who's made magical systems, it's really nice to have an out of the box solution, and I get to make fun D&D jokes, which is one of the things I love to do the most. So
One of my favorite D&D moments was my husband and I play in a group and he brought this random spell that nobody had ever heard of. And we're like, "Where did you get this?" And he goes, "Unearthed Arcana,"
Ooh.
which is not D&D material.
No,
Um,
that's a wild place right there.
yes. Did you ever see like did you ever see yourself like trying to pull from things like that though that were like wildly not D&D?
Mm,
I definitely I draw inspiration from many sources, as Uncle Iroh says, and the there's a lot of things that go into this book that come from things that are not D&D. I actually, there's honestly there's a good bit of cyberpunk because
yeah,
you can
we
replace. They can
We should
replace body
probably
parts
talk.
with magical items.
We should probably talk about the eternal distant influence of Shadowrun on a lot of what we do.
Yeah, I love Shadowrun. I have consistently tried to write all of my books. So Rachel wants to write Shadowrun pretty much. So we do steal a lot from that. But we really tried to keep it all D&D flavored. I was really trying to create. I was trying to create a theme park for if you like D&D, this is going to be a book you are going to just love. That was kind of my goal. I consider myself more of an entertainer than a writer almost sometimes. I'm always putting on a show. And so I always try to consider the audience. Who is my audience for this book? And my audience for this book are people like us, D&D nerds who also read and who like to read fantasy and who like to read LitRPG. I mean, we're a very large group of people. And I feel that we are underserved. So I'm like, well, have I got a show for you? And because that's why I did it this way. But I do draw a lot of outside influence. But I think that happens in every D&D group. Like, you always have that person who wants to bring guns into D&D. And I actually did make guns in this particular world because we were moving forward in time. The whole idea, I mean, if we have a TV show, we should have guns. And then I just made the guns like not effective because it's TV.
Yeah.
It doesn't make a good show if you pull a trigger and someone dies. That's not like fun TV. So there are guns, but no one's using guns because they're not good for TV. They're not good reality drama. And that was one of the real ways I got around it.
This sounds like it would just take so much thinking power and like sitting and just meddling.
Oh yeah. There was like this is why both of our names are on the book, because Travis and I had to sit at our kitchen table and be like, okay, and like literally plan the combat round by round. Fun fact, if you read the book, everyone's in initiative order. There's an initiative. And
planning out the fights. I mean, I had to have Owlbear Rodeo up. I made a fake map and everything so we could track positions and in a spreadsheet of initiative order. And of course, once we make a change to the fight, we have to recalculate everything. I mean, some of those things took days to just do a single chapter on. So it was a very high effort, high detail.
Oh yeah, and then I would be writing and I have a great idea and it's going to be so dramatic that I can't. I'm going to mess up initiative order if I do this, and so I have to like bend around. And while that was annoying in the moment, I think it actually made a more fun, more interesting book because rules always make better art. Like everyone always kind of talks about breaking the rules, but restrictions force you to be more creative. And so I think that we got something truly unique and something new out of this book because of the rules. And it forced me to not just do what I normally do, to do something new and fun and interesting. And I'm really happy. Like I really like this book. I had a fun time writing it. I really want people to like it and to read it more even than a lot of my other books, because the primary goal of this book was fun. Like the goal of this book is, what is D&D good for? D&D is for fun. D&D is for having fun with your friends. D&D is for getting to play pretend. And if I can't write a book that is the most fun with the most friends and playing the best pretend, then why am I here? So that is the goal of the story. Let's all have the best time playing pretend.
That's probably why I feel like I strayed away from LitRPG pretty hard for a while. And this feels like why I read it in the first place, right? So good
Makes me so
job.
happy. Thank you.
And
Thank
I
you.
do think a lot of it is like you working with Travis to set these things in place to make these encounters seem realistic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. We really tried. We really did try.
And again, and I think the best thing about this is, again, because I bring in a lot of readership from my other titles who've never read a lit RPG and who don't play D&D. And they still enjoyed the book, which I think is the best praise, because obviously the D&D jokes, the in jokes, the things being in initiative order. These are all fun if you play D&D.
Mhm.
But to know that it's still a good story, because my goal was to make sure that all the mechanics always made a better story and that the story was not good despite the mechanics. I really was like, how am I going to play this where the mechanics are are the dramatic reason this happens, not just a rule we have to follow. And that was always first in my head as I was writing. And so it sounds like I pulled it off, and I rewrote huge portions of this book, really trying to hammer in that idea, that kind of guiding principle of writing this book. And I know this all sounds very mechanical, but this was a fairly mechanical book because it had literal mechanics for the first time of anything I've ever written. And I know that would drive some authors crazy, but I loved it.
This is also good DMing. The rules should not get in the way of the fun. If a player wants to do something that's fun, the worst thing you can do is to pull out some rule that says they can't, right? A good DM should pull out the rule that says they can and help be a champion of the players. This is also something that we have to do in DMing.
I think my favorite DM line ever is, "You can certainly try."
Are you sure?
Yeah. So, this book's already published as an ebook on Amazon, correct?
Mhm.
And the audiobook is coming?
The audiobook's coming in May. We wanted to simultaneously publish, but I just wanted to get it out because we weren't sure if it was going to work. Like, this was a thing we did because we loved it. This was a thing that is not really in my brand. I'm primarily a traditional fantasy and urban fantasy author. And we've done lit RPG before, and we loved it. I love Forever Fantasy Online. I will stand behind those books until I die, but they're not as popular as my other urban fantasy books. So this was kind of a risk for us. And so I was like, I don't want to wait a month. Let's just get it out. Let's just see if people like it. Because that's going to change the length of the series. That's going to change, we live in a commercial reality. If the book isn't popular, then I can't go as hard as I want. But so far, people seem to really enjoy it, which is also, emotionally gratifying. But I just wanted to get it out. I just wanted to see, because of all the things I've ever written, this was the book that was the biggest question mark. I was like, I would like it, because I always write for myself. Like, I am my own customer. And I'm like, I would like it. I would love this, but how many me's are there out there? And fortunately, it seems to be a lot of us. But, I was also urban fantasy, I'm sorry, lit RPG is primarily male audience. And I've always had a 50-50 reader base of women and men. So I was like, is it going to work? I don't know. And it was so many unknowns and so many things. And since I'm a full-time author, that's pretty scary to do an unknown, to do a big experiment. But I've always blended genres. That has always been my thing as an author. My biggest, probably my best hit, but people would know me for, is Nice Dragons Finish Last, which combines cyberpunk, urban fantasy, dragons, contemporary. It's this hodgepodge mismatch, and people loved it, and it worked really well. And so I'm no stranger to mashing stuff together. And honestly, D&D and LitRPG felt like peanut butter and chocolate. I mean, I didn't see how this could be bad. And there's been a lot of D&D inspired LitRPG, but like you say, they tend to get off the rules. And I'm like, no, I mean, the whole point of LitRPG is we're in a game. And in this case, we're in a tabletop game. So I really wanted to do that. I wanted to have that solo leveling feeling of all the icons popping up, but I wanted it to be for D&D. So that's how we ended up here.
Have you guys considered releasing like short encounters for these like levels?
Absolutely. That's the other reason Travis's name is on here. We're really hoping to release modules so you can play in monorunners. Like I said, everyone's got a character sheet. We're really hoping to release like more world information, specific spells, rules, classes for the game because there's new classes that we made up for
Yeah,
modern.
like
Like,
you'll notice there
go
was
ahead,
a
Travis.
warlock and a cleric with some special subclasses.
But you also
And
have the mana plug thing, right? And that
yeah,
gives them special things, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, the
Hmm.
mana jack, which
Yeah.
gives them, which is how the cyberpunk elements come in, and you can like attune multiple items like you would cyberware again in Shadowrun because I just wanted to play Shadowrun apparently.
Right, but also
Um,
because right, this is a setting that has magically implantable, implantable magical items. So you have magical cyberware in this setting as well. So, but no, we intend to pile up some rules and make some content for people who want to play with the toys.
Do you think you're going to do that after book two?
we're working on it right now. It really is going to be a race of whether I finish first or Travis finishes first. Because he's already helped me do all the work for book two. So now I'm just writing these encounters. But again, Travis is the GM. So Travis is the one who's doing a lot of the actual work of building the classes. I'm just
And
here to make stuff sound good.
also, part of that work is part of that work is actually a little delayed simply because book one needed to gel creatively. And so now that it's now book one is gelled and book two is in progress. Well, now I have a foundation to actually build content on without worrying about changes that need to be made for the sake of the novel. So it was a thing that had to follow naturally afterwards. Although I do have a long document of basically of all the hidden rules, the ones you won't find in the SRD. I have a long document of all of that to make sure that those things wind up in whatever I create later. Um, so consistency is very important to me and very important to Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it makes it playable, you know? Like
Mhm.
one of the things I dislike the most is ambiguous rules. Like I want
Mm.
you to give me some kind of concrete thing for a direction I can go in.
I understand. I mean, if the rules are ambiguous, you're kind of at the mercy of negotiating with the GM's feelings.
And usually my GM is very much like, I guess we'll see what it does for the plot. So,
Oh, nice. I like him.
um, so other than book two, are you guys working on anything else?
Right now, we're working on book two and the rule set. And if you go to rachelaaron.net, my website /monorunners, that's where we put all our monorunner stuff. So when there's rules, they'll be available there. We're still working on like how we're gonna distribute that and like how we're gonna do it.
Mhm.
It's gonna be it's really going to depend on how the rule set ends up looking, like how long it is, how intricate it is. Is it are we talking a source book or are we talking little bits, that kind of. We're still working on that. Because unlike writing novels, this is something we've never actually created in a publishable form. Like Travis has made his own games, but they're only for us. So we're really have to there's a lot of work that goes into making these things. And so we're going to be putting that out. But so right now we're working on books one and books two and building an audience for people who actually want this stuff. And then we're going to start providing the classes, the itemization, information about the world, how you can run your own Mono Runners game, that kind of thing. Because the rules are already there. We
Mhm.
just have to, make them nice and readable for people or not us.
Yeah, well, with tabletop RPGs, like the materials I make for myself are one thing, but the moment it has to be handed to a stranger and I'm not there to help them or answer questions, that 10x's the polish and thought that needs to go into the materials. Yeah, it's a lot needs to be considered for that. So I'm working on it basically.
I'm excited. Like I can't wait to see it. But do you guys have like a Patreon or anything where people can kind of like subscribe and follow it, or do you do something on your website?
We're looking at Patreon. I've never done a Patreon, so but that seems to be the lit RPG thing to do. Like I know a lot of lit RPG authors have them, and a lot of D&D creators have them. So it does seem to be the reasonable thing. I just never done it. Um, and so I haven't done it yet, but
Yeah.
that is definitely probably the direction we're going to go, just because it's the easiest way to get information into people's hands for a reasonable price.
For now, we do have we do have a Modern Runners newsletter sign up, um, and eventually, when there becomes a Patreon or something like that, we'll probably the first people to find out that that's a thing will be the newsletter signups. So while it might be a little sleepy at the moment, that's the place to put your email address if you want to know more later.
Okay. Um, is the book a physical copy anywhere?
Not yet, and that is because it is gigantic. This book is 230,000 words. It is a Sanderson style tome. And those things are difficult to print.
Yeah,
There's
I'm trying to figure out how to not create a $30 paperback. Uh, that's
we're
asking
because
way too much.
yeah, and we use right now we use print on demand because most of our sales are online. And there are people who want paperbacks, and we do, as you see, Travis is sitting in front of an entire bookshelf of my paper and hardbacks.
But
Um,
to put it in perspective, this is 180,000 words. This is the largest paperback we've ever done. And or sorry, it's a hardback, my bad. And here it is next to a normal sized hardback. This thing ate another hardback for breakfast.
yeah, this is like two books in a trench coat.
Yeah,
It's
so also like
gigantic.
my arm is getting tired just holding it. So imagine this, but 30% larger. It'll be like a Robert Jordan novel. It'll just, I mean, man.
So it's funny because the ebook it looks like it's about 500 pages, a little bit less. And when you're reading an ebook, it doesn't seem like that much, Like my brain is tricked.
Yeah, and that was intentional and on purpose. I actually I wanted there to be a I wanted to make sure the first book had enough room for Tavin to get levels. And in order for those levels to arrive in a reasonable time frame, because the other thing I actually really dislike about literature is how fast people will go sometimes.
Mhm.
I'm like, no, don't rush me. And so I think mine's, I like to look at the details and really
I'm
dig into why we're doing these things. But once you add get levels and not go at a crazy pace, the thing is humongous. And as I was writing it, I'm like, we are so cooked. This book is so huge. And Travis is like, no, it'll be in Kindle Unlimited. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
And
So people like the long reads. Like when I'm reading lit RPGs, my favorite ones are the ones that savor the accomplishments and the
Mhm.
ones that build up to the big breakthrough levels and the big breakthrough items. And I when and this is a balance, like this is a spectrum of pacing, right? And when people write one where it's like level stat, level stat, level stat, level stat, level stat, pet ring, item potion, I'm like, they kind of lose some of the significance and meaning of the growth. And so I'm in the medium to slower category of enjoyer here. I really like the details because honestly, that one thing you got that you now have a huge problem, and we then see the creative, resourceful use of it. That's what I live for. That's the moment of lit RPG I live for. So I might have steered things a little bit, but Rachel likes that pacing as well, clearly. So
I wrote it at the same pacing I write all my other novels, which is a pacing readers like. It's fast paced, but still has the details, and it's a pace that I've always written in. I don't know if I can write in other paces, but it made for a very long book, but no one has complained. The only problem is literally the physical limitations of print. Like the binding and the paper and the glue have to be actually able, because I don't want to make it tiny. I don't want you to need a magnifying glass to read this book.
actually,
So we're still working.
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
For paperbacks, so because so this is actually a problem we're having. So to make the paperback cheaper, I'd
Mhm.
have to reduce the page count. That's pretty much the only way, which means slightly smaller font, slightly thinner margins of white space, text kind of falling down inside the fold. And so I'm curious what your opinion on those sorts of things are. Like, do you think about those elements? Do they bother you if they're happening?
The only one that would bother me is if I can't, like if the text is too far into the binding and then
Hmm.
you can't really read it. That's the only
Hmm.
thing that would bother me. I don't care if text goes almost to the very edge of the page and there's no margin. I don't care if you have like the header at the top with the name of the book or anything. Um, but maybe I'm unusual, like there is that.
No,
So.
that's no, that's awesome to hear. Like that's very encouraging because that's what I'm looking at needing to do to make the paperback affordable.
Well,
Yeah,
I
so we
mean,
don't want to charge people an arm and a leg for this thing.
Mhm.
yeah, I guess the other way to do it would be a Kickstarter, but that's so much work. Like
Mhm.
it's crazy pants work.
Oh, it is. Also,
Exactly.
if we did a giant print run to bring down print costs,
Yeah.
it would only save a few dollars off the cover price, unfortunately. Like just the physical paper is heavy and requires mechanical effort to create. And when page counts get big, there's just no way to avoid it.
Yeah.
So
Ugh. I don't think there's a good answer here.
I don't think so either, but I'm just balancing reader experience for the physical reader experience versus cost. And so I'm very curious as to people's opinions on the matter. Although the it so far seems like as long as it's readable, it's going to be all right.
I do think a large part of your audience, basically because it's lit RPG, is going to be audiobook too. Like a
Mhm.
vast majority of people will be audiobook listeners.
Yeah. And let me tell you, we have the best audiobook coming. We got Nick, who was our narrator on Tear Down Heaven, and he did a phenomenal job on that. But this man is born for comedy. And his comedic timing is so perfect, and he does all the sound effects and the little SFX details. So it's almost like a radio drama. And it just really makes it so good. And I'm very excited for the audiobook to come out because that is going to be the premium way to experience Monorunners because dude is like radio dramaing it up and
Oh
it's
yeah,
going to be a production.
I love what he
So
did
good.
for the sample for the chapter one in world ad read for Monorunners. Like he did the TV show basically read for it. I love that. Like the music, the fireworks.
And that is on my website. If you go to rachelaaron.net, you click on Monorunners, we have an audio sample there
Mhm.
and it's super fun. I love it. And we're doing that in May. So
Do you have a date in May picked out?
do we have a date?
I think it's May 4th, but audio production is always a little rocky because well, we once we hit the submit button, there's this process of review that's kind of black boxy, and if something happens there, then we wind up out of review and then going back into a new 10-day delay. So want to say May 4th, but there's definitely a roll of the dice. If the D20 comes at 5 or below, then it might be the 7th or the 8th or the 9th.
Were you guys in the lit RPG world when Matt Dinniman's book got taken off of Audible and they wouldn't release it for some copyright reason?
Oh, I hadn't heard about that one, no.
I hadn't heard about that. No.
He so he posted on it about it on Twitter, and then a bunch of people sent feet pics to ACX until they started till they
Oh,
Is that
got
what that
through
was
the
about? I
copyright
always
issue.
wondered what that was
oh,
about.
oh, that's fantastic. I love that that's how that ended.
Oh, it went on for like a good week of just random feet pics.
Yeah, well,
I've heard. Oh,
Go ahead.
I would say
yeah, never
authors
mind. Go on,
fighting
go
with
on.
ACX. Authors fighting with ACX is pretty common.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, but that's basically why we can't give a specific date because Audible doesn't let us set a release date for reasons, which makes it very difficult. That's actually one of the because we've done simultaneous release dates for a very long time, and we just decided to decouple this book because we're so tired of like not knowing when it's going to come out. Like how do you plan if you can't set a date? So we're
Yeah,
just
and a
like, you
lot
know
of
what? Two dates.
yeah, and a lot of times I wind up having to pad the audio release date so hard that the audiobook comes out like 3 days ahead of the ebook.
Oh,
Because we wound up with too much pad and things went well and things went well and it just early released. So we just don't have a high degree of control here.
You just have to read the sign's importance and pray to the audible gods. You know.
uh, no audible gods, thank you. And for folks who want to find you guys online, is it just rachelaron.net or do you guys have social medias?
I'm on Blue Sky. That's primarily where I am, and then just Rachel Aaron on there. All of my socials are linked off the website. That is by far the best way to find me. So just rachelaron.net, and it's got everything you need. Plus, if you want more books, I have 30 others. So you can read them all, and they're almost all of them are on Kindle Unlimited too. So you can just binge. And I have Kindle Unlimited. I read Kindle Unlimited. I love it. So I'm happy to be in the program.
I'm usually like a background character, so I actually don't have a strong social presence. I do have travisbach.net, and you can also honestly find me retweeting and in the comments for Rachel's socials. But I need to go. I need to actually spin all that up and start participating more. So
Well, now that
um,
you're going to be writing the encounters, you got to have something there.
yeah, well, I'd love to post. Honestly, I really am excited about being able to post D&D content. I generate massive amounts of it for my own, just for the game that we're in. I mean, it's a weekly game. It's home. It's all, it's a homebrew setting. So I make lots of content, and I would love to share that content because I mean, I put a lot of effort into it. So,
You should do it. I bet people would find it and love it.
Yeah, he makes great monsters.
Thank you.
Very annoying monsters.
Thank you.
The sweet, sweet pain of players.
Yeah.
If the GM is good, then there's going to be some player suffering.
A
Yeah.
benevolent sadist.
Mhm.
Thank you guys so much for joining me today, though.
Well, thanks for having
Thanks
us.
so much for having us.
The ebook is out now. The audiobook will be out in early May-ish, I believe.
Mhm.
And you guys will be around on rachelaron.net and possibly travisbach.net.
Mhm.
And if anybody out there wants to get a book, I highly suggest it. And I'm so stoked for the audiobook. So,
It's gonna be
Thanks.
so fun.
well, thank you again, and I hope everybody listening has a lovely, lovely day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.